Hello, hello. Getting ready to get started. I'm going to do a quick tech check before I dive in. So if you're already here, bear with me for just a moment. In the meantime, if you have any questions for me today, feel free to drop them in chat. I'd love to answer some Q&A today if we have any questions to come in. It could be about Go, finding a job, anything. My favorite color, my least favorite color. Why I haven't had a haircut in forever. What else? Looks like I'm live everywhere, so I think I'm good to go. Wait just a minute longer before I really start, because that's the scheduled time. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to be continuing on my Kivik project, but a different part of it, something I haven't done on the live stream before, so it should be something a little bit new and fresh. If you have any questions, I see just people are starting to join, just a few people, that's fine. If you have questions for me, I did promise to do a Q&A today, so if you have any questions about Go or how to learn Go or anything like that, drop it in the chat and I'll get to it as they come up. Otherwise, I'm going to start explaining what I'm working on today for anybody watching either now or on the replay, so it's hopefully not too confusing. So let me start by sharing my screen. So maybe at first, a really high level, what Kivik is. So Kivik is this open source project that I wrote, started in 2017, I think. I continue to update it and add new features. And that's what I've been working on for most of these live streams I'm doing. The premise is that it's a database driver for CouchDB for Go developers. Database driver kind of in the same way that like the database SQL standard library package lets you plug in multiple backends for MySQL or Postgres or SQLite or whatever. This lets you do the same thing. So lately I'm working on a backend to use for testing that uses SQLite to allow me to sort of mimic or implement the CouchDB protocol using SQLite. And the intention there is for local testing. Today, I'm going to be working on a fairly specific part of that. And this isn't actually really tied. I mean, I'm going to be using it for what I just mentioned, the SQLite driver, but it has broader application to that. Today, I'm working on implementing the Mongo query language, I guess, or format or whatever. I should say Mango. Mango's loosely modeled after MongoDB. So maybe a really brief history lesson there. So CouchDB came around a long time before MongoDB did. And MongoDB sort of copied CouchDB's approach, made it a little more accessible. They had these selectors, which made it easier to interact with the data in a MongoDB database. CouchDB liked that idea and they implemented their own version later. That's what I'm working on today. So I'm going to be basically building, or I've already started, but I'm going to continue building a Mango query processor. I don't know what you call it. The basic idea is you can provide a selector, which I can have some on my screen here. Selector might look like this. It's a simple one. It says the year is greater than 2010. And then I can apply that to a JSON document, and it should return true or false, whether or not the selector matches it. Now this will be used in my library. So I can go through all the documents in our database, for example, and apply whatever user provided selector against each one to see if it should be included in the output. So that's high level what I'm working on today. I'm going to keep this document open because I may need to refer to it as I go on. And here's the code I'm working on. So I actually started this code a long time ago. I don't know when. 2018 or 19, and then I backburnered it for a long time. I'm picking it up for the first time today in a very long time. I started on it this afternoon just to make myself familiar with it again before live streaming. Here's my to-do list, the things I want to start on, or want to add. So I think we'll just start on down the list and see where we get. So the next thing on my list, so I just earlier today, I implemented this OR operator. I want to implement an OR operator with an empty list. Now I have to think about what that should actually do. I might need to test it against a real version to see, but what would that even mean? If I say, like in SQL, what would that mean? Select, let me put this as a separate document. Select star from users where nothing or nothing. I think that would be treated as false or false, right? The thing is that it's a different format here. So it would actually look like this. An empty list. I think that would be false, though. I think that would always be false. And in fact, I think that's already going to work because of the way I've written this. But I wanted to test that as a corner case. So let's do it. Module OR with empty list. So let's create a selector. There. Copilot did it for me. Give it. It doesn't matter what the document is. It should not match. Now, where's my console to test this? It passes. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if we look at where that's implemented, it's right here. It loops over each thing in the list, and if none of them match, it returns false. Since there's nothing in the list, then obviously none of them match. So that does make sense. Next, closely related to the work on OR is I wanted to do and I don't think this is going to work yet. So we should have a failing test. We'll create a branch here. Mango progress. I don't know what to call it. So and a corner case test. All it passes. All right, now let's do a selector with an and in it. Logical and. So the selector should be foo equals bar and baz equals quux. Perfect, that's fine. I don't really care what it is. And then I need a document that matches that, and this should return true. Let's see if it does. I don't think it will. It does work. Why does that work? Let's add the opposite case and see if that also works. Match. So let's just delete one of these, and that will make it fail. That also works. Okay, I don't know why. And then let's do an empty and case. Look at all these cases here. If any of them fail, then we'll just go back and fix it. And no. Empty list. That's what I called it for OR. So let's just do that same thing. And this should. I think this one should be true, right? Logically, does that make sense? If I have nothing and nothing. So if I pass in 12 things to and, I want to return true if they all match. So if I do a 0, they all match intrinsically, just because there's 0 of them. So yeah, I think that's right. I'm still not sure why this is working. Because, well, actually I have a theory, but I'm not really sure about this, why it's working. Where is this parsed? Not here. Over here. I guess it's here where this is happening, right? Well, maybe. But it's happening right here. So I'm going to want to run one of these tests in isolation. Test matches, and then the name of the test is, it's called logical and. Okay. I'll put some debug here, just to see if that's executed. It's not executed here. If that one's executed. Nope. I'm just kind of shooting blind here. This code is so old, I don't remember how most of it works. Okay, so this is executed 3 times for some reason. With that, also 3 times. Okay, I understand why 3 times now. So the first thing is called at the top level, and that's the one I care about. And that ranges over X. So what I'm concerned about here is how is this all being set? So I could just be happy that it's working and go on my way, right? But I'm not confident with that. I want to understand why it's doing it the way it is. So the OP, it is being set correctly somewhere. OP being this. It must be, is it this? So my question is, why is this $and operator being set? Okay, that is wrong. I'm setting this field value to $and that's not what should be happening. There's several mistakes I see here. I'm going to add them to my to-do list. The first thing here, well, actually, that's okay. If there's an empty object, return nil. That's probably fine. And then we iterate over the keys and values. Problem here is we're not considering if the key is an operator. Let's do that. If len k is greater than 0 and, okay, yes, then equals, yeah, okay, else, I don't think this is quite complete, but we'll see what happens here. then here I consider if the value, so this part should only happen if, okay, it should only happen if it's a legitimate, okay, yeah, okay, if it's a legitimate key. So actually, this should be something, this should be more, even more specific than this. Switch operator K. Case. OP and an OR. Yes, those two. Fine, good. Default. No, that's not quite what I want. I don't want to like return an error just right away in this case, because I don't necessarily know that that's the problem, right? In fact, I do this same check later on, so I have to decide what I want to do here. What I really want to do is just ignore this case for the moment. I want to focus on the AND and the OR case. And then here I want to do this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to do this right here. That's what I want. So I don't need it here then. What am I missing? Let me do the other operators, because some of these do matter here. I don't have them all implemented yet, but I want OPLT less than or equal to, equal, not equal, greater than, equal to, greater than. You know what? I'm gonna simplify this, and all other. I'm gonna just sum.op equals operator K. And then value equals V. So it shouldn't be, it needs to be the unmarshaled version of V. So V right now, I believe, yeah, it's a JSON raw message. So I need to unmarshal that first. Value interface. Actually, I don't need to have this temporary variable. I can just do like this. And I don't need that. Is it default in the wrong place? It is. Let's try like that. Okay, so what I have now, this isn't done, but in the first case, if I have an AND or an OR, those are the only two operators. I'm pretty sure they're the only two operators that take, oh no, I'm going to also have a NOR and an ALL, but I haven't implemented those yet. But, so I've only implemented two operators so far, where it can take an array. So I unmarshal the raw text, the raw JSON text, into cell.cell, which is an array. You can see here. Otherwise, I just use the, otherwise, if it starts with a $sign, I assume it's a valid operator. If it's not valid, I'll catch that later. And I set the operator to that. If it's not that, then I set the field to that. Okay. Now there's an interesting thing here. By default, I have to look at the documentation here. So the thing is, $and is implicit if you just pass an object. So like this here means name equals Paul and location equals Boston. I'm not 100% sure if that's true for subfields. Like here we have IMDb rating 8. If I had, I think it would be. If I had some other field equals food, that would be an and. What I don't know is if that's true. Let me think. Is that true? In all cases, or are there exceptions? Hmm. In fact, I have to wonder also, even like, are these equality operators, can they work on objects or arrays, or they work only on like scalar values? Let's look at these here. So I want to look at the picture. Here we go. Argument says any JSON. Basic equality inequality operators common. So here's the thing. I think there's a subtle difference between. Let me just do two things here. If I do foo bars and so what this means is this translates to foo.bar equals bars and foo.quotes equals quib, is my understanding, right? However, if I do it like this, I think this is different. Now this says foo equals bar. I think that's checking out for the equality of a specific object. And that's a little bit confusing, to me at least. How else would you interpret this any JSON? Let's see, there's an example of object. There's arguments here. Doesn't really seem to elaborate on that. It's completely a different part of the document now. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense. Which means that the logic I have right now that sort of does this recursive parsing probably isn't right, but I guess I'll get there. Let me see. What am I trying to solve right now? I'll solve one thing at a time. Tests are passing right now. They're just putting a bunch of garbage. So try getting rid of that garbage. Okay, let me add a test. Let me think. Maybe I'll do a test for that object equality that I want to look for. I just mentioned. There's a simpler way to write that equation. It equals. I do foo $eq, and then I put the object in here. R buzz quux. Good enough. I'm going to do the negative case as well. Oops. So it's an extra U there. I get that's fine. I expect them both. Well, I expect the first one to fail right now. And then I need to. No. What? Why is it working? Well, it's not working. The first one is passing. Second one. They're both working. That doesn't make sense. I'm so confused. Maybe I'm not doing this recursively already. Let me see here. This code needs to go away. Basically. So my first segment here works for and and or, which require array arguments. I should add a test for non-array arguments. Here's my to-do list, which should cause an error to be returned here. But for now, otherwise, if it's a $, it starts with, if the key starts $, then it's an operator. I don't validate it. I just unmarshal the next. So, okay. I need to add some recursion here. And I need to add some tests for that. More nested within and etc. They're just nested operators. Yeah, so I need to add some tests for that, which will require it to add some recursion here. But now, this is the case I think I'm dealing with right now, at least at the top level. So foo does not start with a $, so we do this. And then we jump down here. This case triggers, which really isn't necessary. What does this even do here? Yeah, okay, that's sloppy. It's like a half recursion thing. It looks for operators one level down, basically. It's not really what I want, but what do I want? Yeah, that's not correct. I think it's working by accident right now. I considered starting over from scratch on this project since it's been so many years since I wrote this code. But I decided to give it a try and see if it was salvageable. And I'm still undecided. I might end up throwing it away and starting over. So what this object pattern does is it unmarshals the values. That would be from here to here and returns that operator. So in this case, dollar equal up one level, which is wrong. I don't want that. I don't think I want this function at all. I don't think it's ill-conceived. What I do want is, okay, in this case, I need to switch to V0 here because this does some implicit stuff for me, right? If, well, if there's an object, then I implicitly want and. Cell.op equals op and. If it is an array, no. Then I want EQ. Otherwise, I want. Oh, hang on. Well, this is simpler. If it, I don't need a switch here. If the following value is an array, so if v0 equals open square brace, then cell.op equals op and. Because that's the default, right? According to the documentation here. Wait a second. That's probably not quite right. No, that's not right. That's not right. Right. If it's an object, confusing myself. If it's an object, as in we had the example up here. This is a fine example. We're looking for director equals blah and year equals blah. It's an and. It's an and. Yeah, it's the equivalent of this. Yes. Although in this case, we get the hard-coded array, which is handled here. I'll add some comments. Anything else will be implicit equality, I think, right? So that'll be and okay, this is where this. Okay, so this was trying to parse this implicit ands of what's going on here. That map of things. Let me rename this to implicit and. Don't need to return an operator because I already know the operators and And what is value supposed to be here? No, value is, this is completely broken. I'm ranging over key value pairs and I just return the first one. No, that doesn't make sense. This should be returning a slice of selectors. Error. So here returning, if we get an error, no, that's fine. Got more than one result. Why would I care about that? I don't even understand that. Oh, that's because I was trying not to do equality checks on objects, which I think is wrong too. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna just delete this thing. It's so broken. I don't need it here. I'll delete that in a second. So in the AND case, I need var, well, args for now is map string. Yeah, JSON raw message. Okay. No, that shouldn't go into value. That should go into, well, this isn't quite right. It should be like this, I think. Maybe that's right. So I take the key value pairs and I have to parse the value. Let me think. If the value is a simple string, then it needs to go into, this isn't going to work quite right, I don't think. Well, it's going to be recursive here, right? Yeah, it's going to fail right here is what's going to happen. Well, let me get there when I get there. So what I want to do is make sure that the unmarshaled works in this case. And I said the field, yeah. And then I append. That should work. Now in the case of implicit equality, here the value is just the value. So I think the value has no special meaning in this case. It's just the value. As far as I know, I might find an exception to that. I think I can delete this and this. How many things are going to break now? Everything breaks now. Unmarshaled string, yeah. That's what's happening right here. So let's add a little switch here. If len data 0, there's nothing to do. It shouldn't happen, but if it does, just return nothing. Maybe it should be an error, I'm not sure. All right, now switch. So actually, I don't want, I don't necessarily want the first character. I want the first valid JSON character because there could be white space leading here. What's the easiest way to get that? So I could use a decoder and read the first token. That's probably the thing I'll do. That's what I'll do. Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's kind of verbose, but I think it's fine. We don't need this just now. Then. And then I want token TK. All right. Switch token case. I get JSON delimiters. So the valid options are not sure if that's actually the best way to go here. Best specified. So we get a delimiter, or we get a Boolean, a float, number, a string, or nil. If we have an object, that's what we expect. That's this whole case that I fall through for. So let's just do continue. This happens, panic. I don't not implemented. And then the default is where I do something less interesting. Actually, I don't really care what I have here. My options now are bool, float, number, string, or nil. Whatever it is, I'm not going to get a number. The only way I would get that is if I'd set some special parsing. So I'm either getting a Boolean, or float, or nil, or string. Boolean, float, string, or nil. And whatever that is, I think it should become this. Return nil. Well, I changed my error behavior, or my test behavior. Oh, things are so broken here. I'm probably going to revert what I've been doing because I've worked myself into a corner and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. Let me look at my diff and see if I can make sense of anything before I do that. All these test cases. I am seriously considering starting over from scratch because I think I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, that's typical. You look at code you wrote years ago. I don't think I had the right mental model for how this should work. The selector thing is it seems like it's acting as a self-contained selector and an AST, abstract syntax tree. I feel like those concepts probably need to be separated. Yeah, I think I want to start over from scratch. So here's what I'm going to do. Whip thing there. I can always delete it later. If I come back to this, I can always look at that. Let's start over. Mango 2. If I like this better, I'll just delete the old Mango 1. No problem. We'll get going. So let's copy one thing from there. Mango 2, copy Mango. Package Mango 2. Provide support for the parsing and execution. Mango queries against JSON. I don't need to put that sentence there. It's under this X directory, which already implies that. But I do want to add a link to the documentation. Sorry, some down the hiccups. Selector syntax. And go to queries. All right. Now, close the stuff, go away, go away. Now I'm going to start an AST.go where I can build my sort of mental model for how I want this thing to actually work. All right, so I'm going to have node. You know what? I probably actually want to put this in a subdirectory. Or Mango queries. Don't need that. Now I'm going to type node interface. Don't know what this interface is going to look like yet. Now, let's decide what kinds of nodes I'm going to need. I'm going to have these operators are going to play a key part here. I have combination operators and or nor not. Okay, so some of these take arrays, some take selectors. Let's see here. Well, let me just start documenting this here. Big comment, so get it all in one place. What's that? Stop it. And array, not selector. So I'm going to need a selector type. I don't know if that's going to be a struct or an interface yet. Let's do this for now. Then I have nor array. Array. LM match. Selector. Match. Selector. And what's this last one? Key map match. Might need an array type here too. Probably. Okay, and then my other operators are condition operators. And they take, let's see, JSON, JSON, greater than JSON, greater than or equal to, blah, blah, blah. Equal, actually that came first in the list. Not equal. This Boolean type string in array of JSON values. I don't know what else would be an array. I also just say do array, not in array. Size, number, integer specifically, and then mod takes two elements, divisor and remainder. Index string. Okay, so those are all the operator types. And I have an implicit Yeah. Okay. So how do I build an abstract syntax tree out of this is the question. So these can't be nested. So that's simple. This could just be like a comparison node. With operator and argument in the case of mod 2 arguments. And then these either take an array, which represents an array of, is it an array of selectors specifically? I suppose it is. Yeah, it's got to be an array of selectors. So let's simplify this to selector. Because although it could be an array of JSON objects, those have an implicit meaning as a selector. I think that's right. So they have to sort of be converted to a selector first. Yeah, so yeah, it's an array of selectors, right? Yeah, perfect. Array of selectors. I confirmed. All right. So that's simple. So I have essentially two types of nodes then. I have, I don't need this array thing anymore. I have either a comparison node or a combination node. All right. And let's see here. The comparison node. No, I want to do the other one first. Do I? I'm thinking about it, so I'll do that first. I want to do type, what's it called? Combination node. So I have an operator. I should define that. And then I have selectors. And for some operators, this will only have to be one, but I can generalize to an array. I think that's simple. Let me create a constants file here where I can start defining these things. Let's create a bunch of constants. OP and this got pretty quick now, I think. Nor all I don't want in yet. Elem match. OP all match. And I want key map match. No. All right, so these are my combination enablers. This comment outside of that punch block. What are you complaining about? Oh, this is called AST. That's what you're complaining about. Right? Put it in the wrong place. But let's try it again. All right, let's do type. Do I want two types of operators? Probably. It seems simpler since they're like a distinct list. They cannot be intermixed, right? So I probably want combination operators and comparison operators separate. I got hyperlink here too. What? Stupid thing. So the comparison operators, or condition operators, as I call them here. Okay, here we go. He less than equal not equal greater than equal exists. So the next one, yeah, type. Then we have in, not in, size, mod. I'm quite impressed at how well Copilot understands CouchDB. I suppose it makes sense. It's been around for a long time, and it's open source, so there's a lot of code out there that references it. But it seems to do a really good job. Whenever I'm doing something rote about CouchDB, it does a really good job of just filling in the blanks for me. All right, so there are my two different classes of operators. And so this one takes this first class of operator. And then it takes a selector, or a list of selectors potentially. All right. I think that covers that. I'm not going to delete it just now because I want to keep hold of that. And then here, I need to do something similar. Condition node as an operator and a value. Now these aren't tied together yet, right? So I think that selector needs to be that middle thing. Yeah, I have to think about how that relationship works. So here we have two selectors. And this selector, okay, what is this? What is the selector? This selector has a field operator value, right? So selector, I guess, is going to be, for now, I'm going to go with struct. So here I have field, and then node is So it could be a condition node. That's quite right. Because it should be. What should it be? What is the definition of a selector here? Let me think about this. Selectors are expressions, are expressed as JSON object, yes. So this is a simple selector. It has a field and implicitly means equals. Okay. I'm not going to worry about this stuff yet. Fields, I can specify which things are returned, but that comes later. I'm only worried about the stuff that can potentially go under the selector thing. Let me look at this. Maybe this will help. In general, whenever you have an operator that takes an argument, the argument itself can itself be another operator with arguments of its own. This enables you to build complex things. However, only equality operators can be used. I don't care about that right now. I'm not worried about performance. For example, if you try to, okay, I don't care about that. I don't care about sorting right now. I don't care about filtering fields. Yeah, that's not a whole lot of information there. I'm struggling to make this work in my mind. Field. Selector. Does selector always have a field? It can have multiple fields, actually. Although when it does, it is implicitly an and. In which case, it doesn't have a field or a condition. Let me start a new document here. So selector can have a field, condition, operator, and value. And or and a list of selectors. Basically, every one of these is considered a selector. So selector is just a node, right? Yeah, so selector is a node. I think any of these nodes can be considered selectors. So I don't need this as a separate concept. I'll just call that selector. Now, not yes. All so that does mean then that all nodes do have an operator. Um, the fact that the operators are two different types in my current model doesn't help. So basically, every node is a selector, an operator, and an argument. Is it that simple? It might be that simple. To make the API simple, I need to combine these two operator types. Maybe that's okay. I'm trying to think if there are any counterexamples to that. Obviously, these are all operator and value. The value type varies. Here's operator and value, and the value type varies. I think that's it. I think it's that simple. Every selector has an operator and a value. Some of those values can have other, can contain other selectors. I'm uncertain whether these any JSONs can include selectors. That was ambiguous to me. In general, whenever you have an operator that takes an argument, the argument can itself be another operator with arguments of its own. So yeah, it says in general. Of course, it could be meaning that like when it takes a Boolean, that can't be. I think to answer this question thoroughly, I have to do some testing, but like logically, I can't figure out if you say less than, and then you have a selector there with an or, what would that even mean? So I don't think that's logically possible. Or greater than. Like if you did greater than and had an or in there, does that mean it's greater than either? Or if you have 12 ors in there, it's greater than any of them, which would be the same as saying it's greater than the least of them. That doesn't make sense. So I think when they say in general, they're talking about these. These can be nested. I don't think it makes any sense for these to have and or groups within them. It doesn't make sense to me. So I think the documentation is just a little bit over general, too general. So I'm going to make that assumption for now, and if I'm proven otherwise later, then I'll revisit and add some new tests. But for now, I want to still want to figure out what my model is. Do I want to combine these two operator types? Because I could make it really simple that selector is an interface that returns an operator. I could make it look like this. I could make it that simple, right? And then each of these has to implement that interface. And maybe I even make more specific versions of each of these. I'm not sure. I think that's going to be the way I go. Although these two classes of operators are clearly distinct, there's other distinctions as well. Like I could make these equality operators be their own class, and then like exists and type. All these others are in and nin or one side, and all the others are unique. And then here there's two classes as well. I'm going to make these operators all the same type. Operator. So let me do it like this. Okay, and then I can delete this one. I need to change the documentation here slightly. All right, so now I have just a single operator type. Still have them grouped in two for the purpose of documentation, but there's a single operator type now. And now I think I can make see, I could, let's do unary. Calling these combination operators is a little bit funny when you think about it. You don't combine a knot doesn't combine anything. And matches and returns all documents that contain an array field, at least one element that matches all the specified query. I don't know exactly understand what that means. I don't understand these exactly, but they only take a single selector. So it's not really combining either. So technically, those are more like unary operators than combination operators, right? Even though they're grouped together here in the documentation. So let's make a type called a unary operator. Why not? Unary selector. What do I want to call it? Operator. We want to call these selectors, operators, nodes. Using selector everywhere seems a little bit redundant. Maybe that's the way to go. Calling it a node seems too generic. Calling an operator isn't quite right because that's a very specific part of it. I'm going to call it selector for now, which is more or less equivalent to a node anyway, at least for this purpose. Then the value or argument. Should I call it argument or value? I'll call it val for now. I'm going to call it cell here. This is a selector. Let's take a single selector, right? Now this is going to fail because I haven't implemented anything yet, but looking that. To think about how I want to do this. So, I mean, the value is pretty straightforward here. It's just the list of it's a single selector. It's the opposite of unary, like multi-ary. Is that a word? It's Google asking me to log in here. Not sure why. Plurality. Plurary. I don't want to make up a word for this. I'll call it combination. That works, right? Type combination selector. That actually borrows the term from CouchDB, and it's actually meaningful, unlike their definition. Okay. So I don't need this right now, or this. Okay, so I've covered those two groups, and then I have all these. I think these equality ones could be considered a specific implementation. that takes care of up to GTE. No, I have these other ones. The truth is, I could cram all of those on that same type until I have. Well, let me do that. What do they call this here? They had the name somewhere here. Condition. Let me do that. Until I have a reason to split it out, I'll do that. Okay, so I have all my types defined now. This mod one might be a special case, but I'll decide that later. So I think I can build my AST now. So let's see what I've got here. I'm going to move AST.go to selector.go. Just to make room, I want to put my main logic in AST.go. And constants and selector. Copy my preamble here. Okay. Now this is kind of what I was already doing earlier, but now I can sort of start over with a fresh look. And start building some tests to make this do something useful. So actually, parsing is fine, and I'll start with that. But the true test comes in. Well, yeah, the true test comes in. Does the matching logic work? And I was kind of doing those together, which might have been part of the reason for my confusion earlier. But well, let's see where we get. Probably going to use a library I use a lot, a library I've written to make some of this testing a little bit easier with table-driven tests. So let's do input string locked. Hopefully it'll make sense what I'm talking about here in a second. So testy is this library I'm talking about that I've written. It does several things, but the one thing I care about right now is it makes table-driven tests a little bit easier. So this will, I'm going to start adding test cases to this this tests object, and then this will run them all. Testy also, Testy also has a little if test equal. Has a little error comparison equals. Oh, it's error matches. And it handles a nil error. So if a nil error is received, then it compares that against an empty string. So it's just a little helper function to make testing equality easier to test. All right, and then This is going to be a little bit complicated because I decided to use interfaces for this AST, but we'll get there. I think I'm gonna have to build a little bit of a long comparison thing for this library I want to use, but we'll see. All right. Let's start with this really simple case. Let's do empty. So input is empty. I want an object. I want a, what would I expect in such a case? What would I expect? What would I expect? I think I would expect wow, what would that be? Logically, it's an empty and, but an empty and is also nothing. I could. Wow, what is that? If I query with an empty selector, I expect to return everything. So it's the same as anything that matches everything, which would be an empty and would match everything. But is that the best way to express that? I don't know how to express it as anything else. Except I could make a special case for an empty selector. It has no operator and no value. I'm going to go with an empty and for now, and I may change my mind later. But so that's going to look like combination selector. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay. It's going to fail, of course, because no error. Why does that complain? One error should be nothing. Oh, it's where it does not match. All right. Good. Got the failure I expected now. So let's do some parsing. Oh, good. I'm not already parsing it. I'm cheating. I mean, I'm not cheating. I'm doing TDD. Just return the minimum necessary to do anything. Okay, this is what I was expecting. So this library needs to allow unexported things here. So let me CMP ops equals it's pretty cool. I wonder if it's pretty cool that Copilot knew that all of that. So basically, this cmp.diff doesn't like, by default, it doesn't like comparing unexported things. So we need to pass some options, and this tells it to support all three of those unexported things. We'll see if that works. That's beautiful. That's nice. So it actually was nice that I cheated and made it just return this hard-coded thing because it let me catch that and fix that. So before I bother about adding actual logic. So let's add some actual logic now. Simple simple doesn't matter. Let's do implicit quality. Okay, so I'm missing something here actually, and that is I need a node type that represents or maybe that's part of the conditional. So yeah, it's got to be. So conditional selector needs to include a field, right? Yeah, that's what it's got to be. I think that's right. So here, this node represents that foo equals bar. It's going to fail the test because I'm hard coded to return this thing. So let's make it do something now. Well, I'll go with a naive solution. Bar temp string interface. Sure. Let's change this to byte, just to be a little more consistent. I can always have my caller change from a string. Let's do a byte slice. Let's call this input. For now, it's probably a better name I can think of later, but for now, that's fine. Where do I misspell implicit? Implicit. Okay. All right, so I've unmarshaled the thing, and I want to convert it into this. So if len temp is equal to 0, then I do this empty one, right? Otherwise, I do something else, more complicated. Return condition selector field is equal to if len x isn't right, it's TMP. I called it X in my previous version, so I don't know which is better. Neither one is very meaningful. So if it equals the one that I range over it, that's just an easy way to get the values in a map. Otherwise, let's do a field K, OP equal value B. That should work. And it does. Okay. So we just keep going here, right? I should start a to-do list here like I had before. Implicit and explicit and explicit quality. I can just copy and paste a list of all the I'll just type it again. Or I'll let Copilot type it for me. Even better. Less than equals, not equals, greater than equal, exists. Type. In, not in, or 9-inch nails, size, odd, regex. Okay. Now and then I need to do implicit, and now I'm going to have a whole bunch of other things, like combinations of these things and so on. For now, why don't I just, this actually shouldn't be as complicated. I think I made it more complicated than necessary before by not nesting things correctly. But for now, like if I implement each of these, I should move those to the top actually. implement each of those. Then I implement each of these, that should be fine. That should handle it. So I'm gonna do each of these first. So I did implicit equality first. Let me do explicit equality. So that should have the exact same result. Copy paste that and make sure I get the same thing. It's gonna fail for now. Okay, so I'm returning that it should match this, and that's wrong, right? So I need the function to extract the value from V. And this is where I had the JSON raw value step before. Raw message, rather. That's going to break stuff. Yeah, now both are broken because it's getting this raw message, but I'm going to fix that. So I need a function I can put in here that turns that. Now I'm understanding why I had that op, I can't remember what I called it, but that function that returned an operator. I understood why I had that before. And value, let's call it that for now. Input is JSON.raw message, and the result is operator interface and possibly an error. Now this function signature makes perfect sense why I had this before. I was just trying to use it in inappropriate places as well is the thing. So this takes raw JSON, which is going to be either a quoted string bar, for example, or an object that represents something else, and turn it into the proper result. To make sure I don't break stuff, I'm going to another test case here. No, actually, I'm not. I'm going to add a to-do list. So explicit equality against an object. I'll get there next. So for now, var value interface. I can simplify. I can start really simple here. If input 0 is, if it's not an object, then this is super simple, right? Then var value interface. So that will fix the first error case that I broke. So we had two failing tests. We should only have one now. Oh, they're both failing. Why is that? But I don't know. Oh, because I haven't called the function yet. So here we're going to have cookie value error blah. Now it should be fixed. All right. So I did a really simple thing. If it's not an object, then we know that the operator is equality. So we just return that, and we just unmarshal the value naturally. So that's essentially what we were already doing in the first case. Now for the second case, we get an object. And this would also work for Booleans or numbers or anything other than, or arrays, anything other than object, right? So that's fine. And based on what I previously concluded that these cannot be other selectors, I don't need to do any other parsing at this point. All I need to know is it an object or not? And then if it is an object, I need to know if it has a single element and if that single element represents an operator. So we're going to unmarshal into something like this. Yes. So I want to do explicit equality against object with multiple keys. Should be an error. Explicit with against object with invalid operator. Should be an error. Okay. But for now, we're assuming that it has a valid operator, right? And that there's equality for the moment. So if it's panic and implements it. I'll fix that soon. That was the suitcase I just did a minute ago. Actually, for now, I'm going to say if when TMP equals 1, the expected case, then we'll range over, just like we did up here. We range, and I don't want to, no, that's not what I want. It's stupid. Sometimes Copilot is just dumb. Sometimes. Okay. So for now, let's see, I'm going to turn operator K and actually this should be already raw message here into an interface. So then I'm going to return and then V and nil. That's what I want. Do I test pass? Yes, they do. Let's make a commit. All right, great. So the test passes. Let's do this next one. Explicit equality with too many object keys. So yeah, that's too many object keys. So I want error. What kind of error do I want this to be here? Too many keys in an object. That's fine, but it's not very specific. I don't know. I'll go with that for now. I should give this a more specific name. And object or operator. And then maybe the EQ. Be more specific. I could just say for operator EQ. The problem is that here, I don't know what that operator is. I would have to pass that argument in here, which is a little bit annoying. It could be an LT or it could be any other operator. Too many keys in object for. I can Can also do this. I don't know if I like this. It's what I'm about to try. I think it's a little bit magical. Let's see. So it's failing now. So it's too many keys in object, but I wanted this too many keys in object for operator blah. So what I can do is wrap it here. The reason I might not like that, oh, who isn't right? For that for now. The reason I don't necessarily like it is because I don't know what other kinds of errors might come from here, like a JSON unmarshal error. And then it says invalid JSON blah, blah, blah for operator blah. That might be a little bit confusing. But maybe not. I'll try it and see how it goes. I don't like that I had to hard code this OP equals here. But I guess that's legit right now because I know that yeah, I guess so. That's the only option right now. It won't be forever, but for now, that's okay. Okay, and I can delete this test case. What I haven't done, I also need to do explicit equality against empty object. Actually, I already have that. In fact, right? So if len temp is 0, I don't have that. Okay. So let's do it. What that should do logically is test that the object and the target document is literally empty. Yeah, that's right. And then I don't want an error here. I want wait. Yeah, that should be fine. Log field foo equal value is an empty map. And that already works for some reason. Why? Let me think here. So I'm getting all the way down here, returning nothing, which doesn't make quite sense. Run this one test isolation. So I see what's happening. EQ map. Yeah. I'm not getting all the way down here. Why not? What is len? Oh, I know why. Yeah, I know why. Yeah, we are getting this. So yeah, that's all right. I don't even need to write a test for that. What I do want to test for is implicit, I think. Implicit equality with empty object. Because what I want to test is what happens when len temp is 0. That's what I'm trying to get at, right? And I'm going to reverse engineer how I would get there. I think this is right. Should format this better. Equals, and then yeah, that's exactly the same value I just had. I should have just kept that previous case and modified it. But let's see what happens here. All right, so that's failing. And I think it's because it's coming down here. So let's do a switch. Len temp. Case 0, that's what I'm going to add. Case 1 is the error we already handled. And the default, which will be anything greater than 1, is this one. And I can delete this. I'm missing a return because I haven't done this one yet. So this is going to be well, I know so yeah, I can just return. Yeah, I could just do that. I could unmarshal the value again or whatever, but I know exactly what it is. What? That's annoying. I'll just move this default out of here. So I've technically handled every return case, right? But it doesn't know that because len returns an integer and that can have negative values, even though it can't have negative values. So that's why it was telling me to add the other case there. It still wants me to return something here. That's also not. I'll just do that. Actually, yeah, it's impossible. It's going to leave it like that. So there's actually two reasons the compiler doesn't know that it's impossible, and one is that it thinks that this value could be negative because you see len returns an int. I don't know why it should return a uint. And the other is that it doesn't know, it's not able to make the connection here that this loop will always return on the first iteration because it sees this loop that doesn't, it doesn't see a return here. So with that, okay, it is smart enough to realize that this never returns nil or negative. So it's smart enough to do that somehow, but it's not smart enough to realize that this loop never terminates. But whatever, doesn't matter. All right, too many keys in object. Yeah, where did that happen? Explicit equality. Why is that happening now? Oh, because I did this wrong. That's why. This should be the default case. And this should be the case 1. There we go. Okay. That case is solved. It's actually implicit equality against an empty object. We're making good progress here. All right, let's get through. Let's do these other ones here. And then I think it'll be a breeze to get through most of these. I might not. I have about 15 minutes left today, but I'm not finished today. But once I solve these corner cases, getting through the LT and LTE and so on should be a breeze. It's just pretty copy and paste at that point. Against object with in object. That's actually not equality at that point because it's an invalid operator. So this would be explicit invalid operator, invalid comparison operator. So let's do that. Invalid, that's a perfect one. Test. All right, so that's here, right? Switch operator. Okay. Case. The equal is the only one I support yet. Let's make this like this. Why does it do that? I have to think about this. So remember up here, I hard coded this. Hmm. That's exactly why I didn't want to wrap that error like that, because I don't know what it's going to do in that case. And maybe I can put the for operator thing here. I'm trying to think if this will ever be called in a case when it wouldn't default to equal. Actually, it's implicit equal. It's even worse. I'm going to have this to return error. I'll worry about making that error more meaningful later on. Too many. What was it? I'll worry about trying to make that error and others more meaningful later on when I have more context to judge. For now, at least it works now. So invalid operator, invalid. That seems to be working. So good. Explicit equality against an object. I'm pretty sure I already. No, I did it implicit. Let's do explicit. Okay. Explicit equality against object. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Good. Now I think we can just breeze to these other ones. They should be pretty simple. Fail because I haven't written that yet, but let's see. Okay. So this is going to happen right here. I'm going to add some Godot here. OP and value is called when input is an object in a context where a comparison operator is expected. Value to equal no operator specified. Okay, I think that makes a little more sense there. Okay, let's do sit. I don't want to do all those right at once. I just want to do one at a time. Is that all I need to change? It's set to a float, but that's okay. Because that's how JSON's handled. Yeah, it's going to be this simple for most of these. Equal, still not equal. And 42 everywhere here, isn't it? Works for me, doesn't matter. It really wants to fill in all those for me at once. This is where things like Copilot are really nice. Just make all this repetitive typing so much simpler. I need to figure out how to tell Copilot to fill in the whole paragraph or whatever it wants instead of having to do it line by line. So I got a question on chat. What's the best way to learn about computer networks? The best way to learn about computer networks is to build one. That's why I learned about them. If possible, get at least 2, maybe more computers at your house. Get old ones if you need to. I don't know what kind of budget you're on. Raspberry Pis are fine if you want something small and compact. But if you want to save money, go to a thrift store. I don't know where you live. In the U.S., go to Salvation Army or something. Get a couple of old e-machines, from the 90s or 2000s or whatever, or get some used computers from parents or grandparents or whatever. Just get 2 or 3 computers and build a network. I would encourage doing it with Linux, at least on one or more of the computers, because that's what everybody uses out in the interwebs. If you're trying to learn AWS or something eventually, Linux networking will be a lot more applicable than setting up a home network with Mac or Windows. Yeah, build a network, and play around. Set up a DNS server, set up a mail server, maybe set up a game server. That's what I did. I don't know if people still do that, but I set up Doom on my local network, and I played Doom against friends from school or whatever. So that's what you do. Just practice. Okay, I think that's all the equality ones. Commit this. Okay, that was pretty straightforward then. The equality operators are done. We still have these other things that are probably pretty straightforward. They're a little more specific though. So like if I have exists, then I need to make sure that the value is a Boolean, and type that it's a string, and so on and so forth. So I guess let's start with exists. So now the simple thing to do, which isn't actually the correct thing, is this one. It makes that test pass, but there's a case I haven't considered yet, which I'm going to add a test for now. So this should return an error. Yeah, exists 42. Invalid value 42 exists. So I suppose the way to do this is to move this to its own case. Bool val valid value %v. That's a v in there. Is v a thing? Yes. This needs to be FMC F. Otherwise, I can go ahead and return that thing. Let's see if that does it. Nice. I'm going to end. I have 1 minute left on my scheduled time, and I need to go help the kids, help my wife with the kids. And the next few things are going to be pretty straightforward anyway. Type is I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did for a string. Size is going to be for an integer or a float, I guess. Regex for a string. Mod, in, and nin. Mod is a special case. I have to figure that one out. In and nin are arrays. I suppose those could be of any type. So they're not that complicated, but I could probably pound those out maybe tomorrow or in the coming week. Anyway, hope you'll come back next week. Didn't have a lot of people on today. That's okay. But if you're still watching, thanks. And I hope you'll join me, next week when I intend to do this again. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day, great week.